Our most precious resource is time. Yet we never seem to have enough. But small changes in how you spend yours can have an enormous impact, helping you feel less stressed, overwhelmed, and distracted, and instead feel more productive, fulfilled, and happier. I'm Cassie Holmes, and I study time and happiness. Join me and I will show you how to better invest your time to experience more joy in your days and greater meaning in your life. Now, let's not waste any more time and get started. The 17th century French mathematician and philosopher Blaise Pascal astutely observed, all men, and presumably he meant all people, seek happiness. Whatever different means they employ, they all tend to this end. It's important to add that not only is happiness a shared pursuit, it's also a worthwhile one. You wanting to feel happier is neither frivolous nor is it selfish. And there's plenty of data to back this up. But first, what is happiness? What I'm talking about is what many researchers refer to as subjective well-being. It's the joy we experience in our days, as well as the satisfaction we feel about our lives. Now, why is happiness good? Studies show that feeling happy benefits us across our domains in life, in the workplace, in our interpersonal relationships, and with respect to health. Benefiting us at work, for instance, happiness increases our creativity and makes us more adaptive in our problem solving. Also, happy employees are more engaged and better performers. Happiness helps our interactions with others as well. Studies show, for instance, that when we feel happier, we like others more and we are liked by others more. Plus, when in a good mood, we're more likely to help. So put simply, happiness makes us nicer. There's also evidence to suggest that being happier can improve health by boosting immune functioning and making us more likely to stick to treatment regimes. Not to mention, happier people live longer. These are all very good reasons to prioritize your happiness because it will benefit not just you, but also those around you. Now, this leads to the final question. What makes you happier? Research points to 3 categories of inputs. First, there's genetics. Your inherited disposition has a significant influence. That is, whether you're someone who is chronically cheerier, tending to see the glass as half full, versus grumpier, having a knack for noticing the half-empty side, has a meaningful effect on the happiness you feel. The second involves life circumstances, which includes things like income level, marital status, and attractiveness. Many believe if only I had a whole lot of money, found a life partner, or looked like a supermodel, then surely I'd enjoy everlasting happiness. However, studies show that these factors, which people think are the secrets to happiness, don't actually make us as happy or happy for as long as we predict. Now, the third category might seem the most mundane, but actually it's the most exciting because it's the part we have the most control over. What we do and think about in our day-to-day has a significant influence on how happy we feel. That is, how we choose to spend our time and how we mentally engage in the time we spend affects the joy we experience in our days and the satisfaction we feel about our lives. So what this really means is that you can choose happiness. You know, United States President Abraham Lincoln was totally right when he said, people are about as happy as they make up their minds to be. Reflecting back over the past weeks, what activities sparked joy for you? Pause now to write down 3 recent events that made you feel utterly happy. People's happiest times are typically quite ordinary experiences, like taking the dog for a walk, dinner time with family, or reading to little ones before bed. But because they're everyday experiences, we expect they will continue to happen every day. It's therefore easy to skip them for others that seem more urgent, like work dinners or responding to email. Or even if we do these activities, we're often rushing through them, or we don't even notice them because we're in our heads or on our phones thinking about and planning for what's next. However, time is relentless. It never stops. These moments are in fact limited and therefore more urgent than you probably think. One way to recognize just how precious your time is involves counting the times left you have to do the things you love. This exercise was inspired by a brilliant blog post by Tim Urban. The first step in the exercise is to identify an activity that brings you joy, perhaps selecting one that you just wrote down. As an example, I will share one of my own joyful activities, my weekly coffee date with my daughter, Lita. These coffee dates started when she was really little, on my way to dropping Lita at her preschool next to my office on Thursday mornings. We'd stop at the local coffee shop, and what began as a mindless routine soon transformed into a treasured ritual. I now cherish this blissful half hour for just the two of us to sip warm drinks, she gets hot chocolate, and we munch on croissants and chat. The next step is to calculate the number of times you've done this activity in the past. Counting when I bundled her up to join me on my daily trips to the coffee shop during maternity leave, and then our weekly ones, since I calculated that Lita and I have approximately 400 coffee dates so far. Next, calculate the number of times you have left to do this activity in the future, in the way you enjoy doing it, and if relevant, with the person you enjoy sharing it. When making your future projections, account for factors that will likely change. For instance, Lita is now 7. At some point in the next few years, she will probably prefer going to the coffee shop with her friends instead of me. And in just 11 years, she's going to go off to college. And after that, we'll likely end up living in a different city. Accounting for these changes in our circumstances, I calculated that we have approximately 230 coffee dates left. Lastly, calculate the percentage of your total times that you have left to do this activity. Is your remaining time more limited than you thought? Very often it is. From this exercise, I realized that Lita and I have approximately 36% of our coffee dates left. That's much less than half, and she's only 7 years old. Though this might at first seem depressing, doing these calculations proves to be supremely impactful and results in greater happiness. It not only ensures that you have prioritized the activities that bring you joy, but also that you notice the joy in these activities. I can tell you that because of my counting, no matter how busy I might be feeling, I make time for our morning coffee date. I protect this weekly half hour, scheduling everything else around it. And during these times, I pay full attention because this is the time of my life and I don't want to miss 1 second of it. So, invest your time in activities that matter and be invested while you're spending that time to really make it count. Does it seem like you never have enough time to get everything done? If so, you're likely time poor. Time poverty is the acute feeling of having too much to do and not enough time to do it. Even if you haven't heard the term before, I suspect you know exactly what I'm talking about. Time poverty is a prevalent experience in modern life. Maria Truppi and I conducted a national poll which showed that nearly half of Americans feel like they don't have enough time to get everything done. Our data shows that even though moms tend to feel more time poor than dads, and even though working parents tend to feel particularly impoverished, all types of people lack for time, including those without kids and those who aren't working for pay. And it's not just my fellow Americans. People across the globe report being rushed and suffering from a hectic pace of life with too little time. And this problem is serious because it's not only pervasive, but the effects are detrimental for well-being. Studies show that when we feel time poor, we're less healthy. It makes us less likely to exercise and delay going to the doctor, for example. It makes us less nice. When we feel pressed for time, we're less likely to slow down and help others out. It makes us less confident in being able to achieve what we want, and it makes us less happy. However, it's not all bad news. It's helpful and important to know that time poverty is subjective. Remember, its definition is the feeling of not having enough time to do what it is that you set out to do. And yes, this feeling is terribly limiting, but if you are proactive in deciding what it is that you set out to do, and if you have confidence that you can achieve whatever that is, then you will feel less limited by time, like you have more of it. By understanding what time poverty is will inform how to sidestep it, and you will experience a greater sense of time affluence. To combat time poverty and gain a sense of having enough hours in the day to achieve all that you set out to do, the solution is probably not what you're thinking, namely to do less. Instead, the answer for feeling more time affluent is to do more, at least of particular activities. When you do activities that increase your self-efficacy, that is your confidence in being able to achieve your goals, it makes you feel less limited overall. So spending time in ways that expand you can expand your sense of time. Here are some activities you can do to feel less time poor. Number 1, get moving. Exercise is not only a direct mood booster, it is also an effective way to increase your self-efficacy. So even though you may shirk on going for a morning run when you don't feel like you have time, by carving out and making the time to exercise, you'll get the sense that you have all the time you need to accomplish what matters. Number 2, practice acts of kindness. When in a rush, we often don't slow down for others. Yet, our experiments show that because spending time to help another can make you feel surprisingly accomplished, giving time can give you time, making you feel like you have more of it. Number 3, experience awe. Studies show that feeling a sense of awe can expand not just your perspective, but your sense of time. Interpersonal connectedness, nature, art, and witnessing achievement are all great sources of awe. So initiate a deep conversation, go for a walk outside, or book tickets to an upcoming concert. You'll be glad you spent the time and feel like you have more of it. By taking time for these activities, you'll be able to look back on your days, and instead of them being overly full, you'll see them as fulfilling. There's an analogy that I continue to find helpful and touch back to when making my own time spending decisions. It highlights the importance of prioritizing hours for what really matters. Now, imagine a large clear jar, and into it, I pour golf balls until they reach the very top. If I were to ask you, is the jar full? You'd nod because the jar indeed does look full. But it's not really, because I next pour a bunch of marbles into the jar. The marbles fall into the crevices between the golf balls, reaching the very top of the jar. And if I were to ask you again, is the jar full? You'd again nod and say yes, because the jar does look full. But nope. Now I pour sand into the jar, and it fills all the spaces between the golf balls and between the marbles, reaching to the top of the jar. Is the jar full? By this point, I suspect you're smiling because you know what I'm getting at, and you agree that yes, the jar is full, but not quite. There's one last step. Finally, I pull from the fridge 2 bottles of root beer. I open one and pour it into the jar. I then open the other and take a sip, and I explain. This jar represents your time. The golf balls represent the really important things, the things that truly matter to you, your family, your friendships, the work you do that helps you fulfill your purpose. The marbles are the other important things like your job and your house. The sand is everything else. It's all the stuff that fills your time without you even thinking about it. For many, this sand includes scrolling social media, or for me, email. Your sand also includes those incoming requests that you say yes to because it's easier to say yes than no. However, just because you committed to doing these things and ended up spending the time, it doesn't mean these things are important to you. And what's crucial to note is that had I put the sand into the jar first, there wouldn't be space for all the golf balls. They wouldn't all fit. And the same is true of your life. If you spend all your time on the small stuff, all the sand, you won't have time for those things that really do matter to you. So set your priorities. Put your golf balls into your schedule first. Carve out and protect the time for those things that truly matter to you. Invest in your important relationships and dedicate time to those parts of your work that actually help you progress towards your real goals. If you don't, your time will get filled with sand and you'll be left looking back on your days and weeks and years feeling dissatisfied. You'll also likely feel exhausted because you were busy with a full schedule that wasn't even fulfilling. However, if you instead prioritize time for the golf balls, for what really matters to you, you will be able to look back, and even if you're busy, you will feel fulfilled and satisfied because you've spent on and invested in what you ultimately care about. Now, you might be wondering, what's the deal with the root beer? It goes to show that no matter how full your schedule might seem, there is always time for a drink with a friend. How you choose to spend your time has a significant influence on how much joy you experience in your days, as well as how satisfied you feel about your life. Time tracking helps you discover which activities produce the greatest and least amount of happiness, and they are not always the ones you'd predict. So, track your time for at least 1 week, writing down for each 30-minute increment what you're doing, and rating that activity on how it made you feel on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being your absolute happiest and most satisfied. Here's a handy worksheet that you can use. When noting your activities, be as specific as you can so that later you can pull out the positive features of a particular type of activity. For instance, Instead of just writing the broader category work, write working on a book or a faculty meeting or responding to email. Or instead of just writing family time, write coffee date with Lita or dinner with family or getting kids ready for bed. With this individualized data at the end of the week, you can then look back and precisely identify not only which types of activities are the most and least satisfying, but also commonalities among your happiest activities. You may find, for instance, that you really enjoy one-on-one time, whether with a family member, a friend, or a colleague, but that larger groups feel less fulfilling. Or you might notice that work hours that remain uninterrupted from incoming emails or meetings feel highly satisfying because from them you enjoy a sense of progress and productivity. Not only will this exercise help you identify your most worthwhile activities that you absolutely must protect time for in your coming weeks, but you can also calculate just how much time you're spending on your various activities. If you find that you're spending a surprising amount of time on an activity that isn't necessary and that you don't rate as particularly fun, for example, scrolling social media, you've discovered available time that you can then reallocate to activities that you've identified as making you feel great. From tracking your time, you will have the concrete and precise information that you need to guide how to invest your hours, to minimize time that turns out to be a waste, and maximize time on what feels worthwhile. Research shows that when people are aware of the meaning of their work, why they do it, they become more engaged in the work. They do better at it, and the work itself feels more fun. To experience your work hours as more productive and enjoyable, it helps to know why you do the work you do. What is your ultimate purpose? Though this might sound like a lofty and untenable question, the 5 whys exercise can help you identify your purpose. To identify what ultimately drives you in your work, ask yourself why 5 times. Now, the first answer typically involves making money or parrots the job description. But let's be real. That's not what gets you out of bed in the morning. That's not what gets you excited to get to work and to show up again the next day. That's not what makes you feel fulfilled when you realize you're making progress. So take your first answer and dig a level deeper by again asking yourself, why? Why does doing that matter to you? By the time you answer 5 layers of why, you will have arrived at the heart of why you do the work that you do. And that's your purpose. I've personally found this exercise supremely enlightening and motivating, and I will share my 5 why answers as an example. My first why was my job description as a university professor, which is to conduct research and teach. Then why that? Well, to create knowledge and to disseminate knowledge. But why is that important to me? Well, I want to make people smarter. But after sitting with this answer for a little while, I realized that this isn't what truly motivates me. Yes, I want to help people be smarter, but really what I care about is their happiness. I want to help people be smarter in making decisions that will affect their joy and satisfaction in life. The research projects that keep me up at night in a good way, and the lectures that I'm excited to present involve more specifically knowledge about how to feel happier. This last layer of asking myself why led me to identify my purpose. I recognize that instead of the first answer of doing research and teaching, my ultimate goal in my work is to create knowledge about what makes people happy and to disseminate knowledge about what makes people happy. I'm driven to help more people be happier. Identifying your purpose proves useful for allocating your work hours. For example, if a student approaches me with a research project that could inform what makes people happy, I'm likely to agree to work on the project. However, when a student suggested we start a project on effective social media campaigns, I graciously but confidently declined. Another benefit of knowing your purpose is that it helps reframe tasks to make them more fun, or at least less tedious. For instance, I do not enjoy email. However, by seeing emails with my research collaborators as creating knowledge about happiness and emails with students as disseminating knowledge about happiness, I suddenly find getting through this portion of my inbox more worthwhile and satisfying. Knowing your purpose clarifies what to say yes to and what to say no to. It also makes unenjoyable tasks less onerous, and it can make some work activities truly rewarding and joyful. Household chores, working, and commuting are consistently found by researchers to be associated with the lowest levels of happiness. And unfortunately, these activities together comprise the bulk of the work week. And unless you want angry housemates or to lose your job, you do need to do some housework and to get to and from work. Fortunately, there are a couple of strategies that you can use to make these typically least happy hours happier. Number 1, outsource some of your chores. Research shows that people who spend money on time-saving services are significantly happier, particularly if the freed up time is reallocated towards activities that feel more worthwhile. Indeed, couples who outsource are found to spend more quality time together and report greater relationship satisfaction. So think about whether there are any chores in your day-to-day that you might be able to outsource. For instance, could you use a grocery delivery or meal service? This way, instead of spending time at the grocery store and in front of the stove, you could spend this time at the dinner table with your family. So get creative and find some cost-effective ways that fit within your budget to buy better time. It is worth it. Number 2, bundle unfun with fun. By bundling a less enjoyed activity with one that you do enjoy, you can make this time more enjoyable and feel like less of a waste. For instance, during your commute, instead of mindlessly scrolling through radio stations, choose something you really want to listen to, like an audiobook. Or if you commute by a bus or metro, instead of scrolling through social media, open an actual book. Reading for pleasure is an activity that people often say they regret not having enough time for. However, by bundling your commute with reading time, you'll be able to enjoy a new book every week or so. Or when it's time to fold the laundry or clean the kitchen, turn on a show or podcast. This time that you dread will become time you look forward to, time to be entertained or to learn something new. At work, instead of writing an email to your colleague to strategize on next steps, invite that person to grab coffee to discuss. Not only will this get you moving and outside, both proven mood boosters in themselves, but because you'll have the opportunity to chat, it will make this time socially connecting. Genuine social connection is key to greater happiness. Employees who have a best friend at work are more than twice as likely to feel engaged in their jobs, produce higher quality work, and are happier at work. So for those chores that you aren't able to outsource, or for those work-related activities that feel like a chore, bundle them with activities you do enjoy to make all of your time more joyful. Do you wish you had time to lose your sense of time, to work at your very best, creatively and productively, so you can really make progress on those projects that matter to you? Regardless of how focused you intend to be, a kid requesting a snack, an incoming ping on your phone or computer, or a colleague stopping by your desk is going to distract you. You need to set up your physical space to protect yourself from these interruptions so you can get into the zone. This is what researcher Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi referred to as being in a state of flow. When you're in flow, you're so fully immersed in what you're doing, you lose track of time. And when you emerge, you realize how great it felt because you were producing at your very best. Here are some tips for increasing the chance you'll enter flow. Number 1, clear your schedule for several hours. This will keep you from losing your train of thought while transitioning between tasks and continually worrying about what's next. Number 2, shut the door. It is so simple, yet so effective. Close the door to your office to communicate to your colleagues, or if you work from home, family members, that you're not to be bothered. If your workspace has an open floor plan and there isn't a door to close, try reserving a conference room that does have a door. Number 3, put in earplugs or put on headphones. Listening to conversation, the TV, or the sound of construction inevitably draws your attention away from what you're doing. To minimize these audible distractions, pop in some earplugs or play white noise or background music on your headphones. And if you're in an open floor plan office, this also serves as a great cue to colleagues that your door is effectively closed. Number 4, close out of email. Despite our best efforts, we are not actually able to multitask. Closing out of email during these optimal work hours will not only avert the temptation to quickly respond to an email or get sucked into clearing out an entire inbox, but it will also protect you from glancing over to monitor every new ping. Number 5, put your phone away. The mere presence of the phone can pull your attention to other tasks and activities you could be doing, away from the task at hand. So, put your phone or smartwatch in a drawer or in another room. Out of sight is more likely to be out of mind. By taking these simple steps to protect yourself from distractions, you will increase the chance of finding flow and you will come away feeling awesome, energized, and massively productive. Don't waste time thinking about it, just do it. If only we had some time off to simply relax and take a break from the incessant to-do list that keeps us in such a hurry, we would be happier. Going on a real vacation is one solution. Decades of correlational research have demonstrated that vacations have immediate benefits, improving health, creativity, job performance, and life performance. But vacations are costly in terms of money and time. So it's not like you can jet away whenever. But you do often get time off, right? It's called the weekend. And it happens every week. Yes, every single week. Yet, weekends don't usually leave us feeling relaxed and rejuvenated when back at work the following Monday. Here is one way to get the break you need so that you do feel happier during those days off and when you return to work. Treat the weekend like a vacation. It's that simple. And I have scientific evidence to back this up. My team and I conducted multiple experiments among fully employed working Americans in which we randomly assigned half of our study participants to treat their weekend like a vacation. And it was that simple. On the Friday afternoon, heading into a regular weekend, we told them to think and behave in ways they would on a vacation. We found that compared to those whom we'd instructed to treat the weekend like a regular weekend, those who had treated the weekend like a vacation ended up feeling significantly happier during their Saturday and Sunday hours, as well as when they were back at work on Monday. Now, interestingly, the group who treated their weekend like a vacation did act a bit more like they were actually on vacation. They spent a little more time cuddling with their partners in bed and dining, and they spent less time doing household chores and work. However, the real driver of their boosted happiness wasn't the activities they had spent their time on. It was their mindset while doing their activities. Treating the weekend like a vacation made people more present. They were more engaged in the here and now. Instead of thinking about what was next or eagerly trying to check another item off their to-do list, they applied a vacation mindset. This shifted them away from their mode of incessant doing and allowed them the joy of simply being. And they were happier as a result. This simple strategy of treating the weekend like a vacation will help you enjoy your time away from work more and feel happier and more rejuvenated when you're back on Monday. So even if you do need to dedicate a few weekend hours to catch up on chores or to do a little work, still carve out a meaningful portion of the weekend to take a true break. Not only do you deserve these breaks, you need them. People often think about their time narrowly, whether to spend an upcoming hour on one activity, for example, work, versus another, for example, family. This perspective, however, forces trade-offs, eliciting such negative feelings as guilt and regret, no matter which option is selected. In my research, we have found that individuals who take a broader perspective of time, thinking in terms of months, years, and life overall, instead of hour by hour, experience greater happiness in their days and a heightened sense of satisfaction in their life. The benefits of taking this bird's eye view of time stem from several factors. First, questions of whether to spend a given hour on one activity versus another become questions of when to spend hours across your various activities. Looking at the week or month reveals that many hours can be devoted to work, and that many other hours can be devoted to family. This broader view of time lessens feelings of guilt and regret, making way for more positive emotions. Also, this perspective takes the pressure off of your next hour. It helps you see that each hour is just one tile among the many in the mosaic of your life, revealing a myriad of colors and allowing for a multitude of priorities. Additionally, this view makes time feel less scarce. Research shows that when in a rush, people are prone to spend on whatever task feels urgent, regardless of its importance. However, taking a broader time perspective lessens this sense of urgency. It offers room to consider higher level goals and what really matters. With this clarity, you can confidently spend time according to what's important and not just reacting to what seems urgent. Thinking this way, in terms of years in your life overall, will help inform how to better spend your hours. And it will highlight the possibility of you investing time in your full range of interests, reducing guilt and regret, and increasing happiness and fulfillment. At the end of your life, how do you want to be remembered? What words do you want people to use to describe you? And which stories do you want them to share? Put simply, what do you want your legacy to be? To push you to answer these questions, describing who you want to be and the life you want to live, I encourage you to write your own eulogy. Your eulogy is the speech that someone who survives you would write and deliver in memory after you've died. In writing this, take another's perspective, and you can choose who, for example, a child, a spouse, a friend, or maybe even a business associate. Also, assume you will live a long life, to at least 90. Now, I admit writing this won't be easy. Reckoning with your own mortality can be downright uncomfortable, but there's also a tremendous potential upside. Writing your own eulogy is incredibly revealing, and it proves to be inspiring. In fact, this exercise is not really about death at all. It's really about life, the one you aspire to make a reality. So if thinking about your end evokes too much anxiety for you, that's fine. Simply reframe this exercise and write a page describing the life you will lead. Afterwards, when reading what you've written, you might be surprised that you didn't list out your achievements like you might on a CV or your resume. You may instead find that your desired impact is more about how you engage with people in the day-to-day. Indeed, a study tracking a cohort of men over 75 years found that the single biggest predictor of their happiness and satisfaction at the end of their lives was neither fortune nor fame. It was whether the person had strong, supportive relationships. By thinking about your life overall, you will gain clarity about what is ultimately important to you, what your values are. And this will help inform your decisions about how to spend your hours today, tomorrow, and all the days that follow. What you think about your life and the satisfaction you feel is based on what you remember. However, research by Nobel Prize winner Danny Kahneman and colleagues suggests that what we remember is not a simple summing up or even averaging of all our moment-to-moment feelings. Instead, people's memories of events are determined by the peaks, that is, the points that were most intensely positive or negative, as well as the ending, that is, the final moments. This means that merely adding together how you're feeling during each moment of the day or week will not perfectly predict your overall evaluation of that day or week. Similarly, adding together all the moments of a vacation will not precisely form your memory of that vacation. Instead, what you recall will be unduly colored by the most extreme moments of that day, week, or vacation, as well as its final moments. This insight pertains to the time of your life as well, because the piecing together of your every hour will not decide how satisfied you ultimately feel about your life overall. The peaks and end will exert a powerful influence on what you think about and the story you tell, both to yourself and others, when determining your assessment of how happy you are in life. Understanding this has critical implications for what you choose to focus on. Knowing that only particular moments will get picked up in your recollection of all the time you spend, you must ensure that you realize and relish your happiest moments, even the simple ones, as peaks. Don't forget about the potential joy from ordinary experiences. Notice them, celebrate them, and turn them into rituals. The other key insight is that endings really matter. So make more of your endings throughout your life, like the last days of vacation or the final weeks before you graduate or move. And maybe most importantly, savor each day as though it is your last. It is now time, your time, to make your days happier so you can look back on your weeks feeling satisfied. And even if you're busy and your schedule is full, you will feel fulfilled because you invested in what really matters to you. You now know how to schedule your hours with purpose so you can look back on your life without regret. If you want more details about the strategies I have shared in this course, read my book, Happier Hour. And if you're time poor, you can listen to me narrating the audiobook while doing other things. In fact, this is a great opportunity for you to employ the bundling strategy to make activities like folding laundry, driving to work, or getting ready in the morning feel less like a chore. Switch on a few minutes of Happier Hour. You can learn more about me and my latest research on my website, www.cassiemholmes.com, and connect with me on LinkedIn. I am so grateful for our time together, and I am so excited for your many happier hours ahead.